So normally I take my glasses off to record my videos, but these glasses are kind of new, and I haven't recorded a video with them yet, and I quite like the way they look on me, so I'm keeping them on for this. Hi, I'm Jeremy, and today I will be reviewing the first book in the beloved Percy Jackson and the Olympians series, The Lightning Thief. So why am I reading this now? I should have read this when I was in middle school, not when I'm in college. Well, as some of you may know, there was a recent musical adaptation of this book, and just a few weeks ago, the cast album was released for it. And as a very major theater person myself, and a future aspiring director of high school theater, I checked it out right away, and I loved it, and it was great, and I really hope that by the time I'm working in my dream job at a high school, that the rights for this are available so that I can put on production of it, because it's just such a great addition to the repertoire of musicals, especially musicals that are appropriate for and available for preteens and teenagers. Anyway, because of that, the book series has kind of risen up again. I know the fandom's always been kind of there, but this definitely, awakened them a little bit more again. And I thought, if I like the musical so much, why don't I just read the book? I probably should have done that by now, why haven't I? And to my happy surprise, there's this online library service I get through my college that had the audiobook and the ebook. I chose the audiobook because, as you may know, I've mentioned before, I usually like audiobooks better, just a preference. But anyway, I got the audiobook for free from that, and just saying, any of you who are college students, you should really look into your library's online resources, because they don't tell you about this stuff, but you probably have access to a lot more free books than you think. It's crazy. The library itself, obviously, you can go get a physical book, but, there are a bunch of online things that completely legally. All you have to do is put in, your school ID or your .edu email address or anything like that, and you just have access to all these books, completely free, completely legal. It's just awesome. But I'm not going to go on that tangent right now. Maybe I'll make a video about it in the future, but not right now. Anyway, I went ahead and I listened to this audiobook, and I liked it a lot, and I knew that I would. You see, this is a series I've always kind of appreciated from a distance. I've had a lot of friends who grew up with it, a lot of friends who read them all as they were coming out. A lot of them loved it, a lot of them recommended it to me. I just never read them. No real reason why, I just didn't. At the times that I was reading more often, the time that these books were coming out, I was reading different books. That's just how it turned out. And then the time passed, and I didn't really feel like reading them now, because I felt like the time has passed that these were the thing. And now they're kind of the thing again, because the musical, so yeah, I'm going back into it. And what I mean by appreciating the series from a distance, it's something that I always knew I would like. I like these young adult fantasy stories, and everything I'd heard about it sounded cool to me. I like the world of it. I like stories about magic and myths and all that. And also, I've seen a lot of fan art for the series on Tumblr and such, and it's just really nice fan art. I don't know what it is about the series, but it has some of the most beautiful, really emotional, touching fan art that I saw and just really got the feels from, even though it's not from a book I've actually read. Also, I did see the movies, and I know that's kind of a touchy subject, because fans of the series tend to really not like the movies. And honestly, I did like the movies. I know they're not good. I know they're not accurate representations of the books, but I did like them. And all my friends, of course, would tell me that if you had read the books, you would hate them. And I'll be getting to that later in this video. But I did see the movies, I did listen to the musical, and now I'm finally reading the book, which, of course, is the original version of the story and the version that kind of represents everything. So, while I do say I like this book a lot, there were a lot of little issues I had with it. And most of these were things that I feel like are going to be less of an issue in the continuing books, because I am planning on reading the rest of the series. I'm not just going to stop at book 1. But all these other little things were just kind of symptoms of being the first book in a series, rather than something that's meant to be as a standalone. First of all, the whole introductory aspect, about the chapters leading up until when Percy Jackson is finally on his quest. A lot of this was just when he was not even at Camp Half-Blood, when he was at Yancey Academy, getting into weird situations there. Then the Battle of the Minotaur, that was cool. Then when he gets to Camp Half-Blood, all this has happened, and he still doesn't know who he is. He's still not kinda in the world yet. You know how Harry Potter, before he goes to Hogwarts, all that, it's like there was too much of that, I feel, and it was just kind of annoying. I just wanted someone to grab Percy and shake him and say, "You are a demigod." It just took so long for him to realize this, and it's kind of frustrating. Why? It could have been, that whole part could have been trimmed down a little bit. You know, there was a semi-recent episode of Doctor Who, the first episode of season 10 when Bill is introduced. So Bill's going into the TARDIS for the first time and starting to slowly figure out, like, what's going on here. But she's, I bet because of her character, she's getting, like, distracted easily, not going through the usual steps that happen. And then the bald guy, Nardole, like, turns to the doctor and he says, is it just me, or is this taking longer than normal? And that's exactly how I felt during the first few chapters of Percy Jackson, because there are a lot of young adult fantasy books and just stories in general like this, where the character takes a little time before entering their fantasy world and realizing who they are and why they're here and all that. And it usually seems like it goes by quicker than this. Like, Harry was just, "You're a wizard, Harry." "I'm a what?" "You're a wizard." "Okay." With this, it's like, okay, this strange thing happened with a mythological creature, this strange thing happened with a monster, then you're in this weird place out of nowhere, this magical stuff is happening to you, all these people are telling you these crazy things about Greek myths being real and all this, and you're just still like, you know, I could still be just a normal kid, I don't know, until eventually, when he finally does get told that he's a demigod, and even then it's just not a big thing. Like, if there was no shaking or a demigod Percy like I wanted, it was just kind of just like, "Oh yeah, by the way, you should have realized this by now, but you're a demigod. We don't know which one yet, but you are." And then he's like, "Oh, okay, everything makes sense now." But it could have gotten to that point so much sooner, and that's what kind of irritated me. But again, this is just because it's the first book. I know there's not going to be any of that in the later books, because he already does know he's a demigod. He's already at Camp Half-Blood. He's already gone on a quest. We don't need to go through that stage again. But I'm still going to count that as a little bit of a mark against the first book. I want to get to the action, you know? I don't want to deal with all this exposition stuff. There was a lot of exposition in this book, even besides Percy learning he's a demigod. A lot of just establishing the world. And it is a very interesting world, and I like the way that Rick Riordan writes, so that it's not in a way that there's too much description. I don't know if you know this about me, but I hate reading, like, excessive description in books. So it's nice that Rick Riordan just kind of says it how it is, but at the same time, there's too much of it. Too much of establishing this world, understanding where everything is, and it's all clever stuff. Like, that's the thing about this book. It's a lot of clever establishing how this Greek mythology stuff fits into a modern setting, and it's very interesting how he does it. It's clever, it works, it makes sense, while still being, like, kind of funny, kind of interesting at the same time, but there's just a lot of it until we get to the actual action. I want show, don't tell. I want to find this stuff out as Percy's going on his adventure. I don't want him to be told all this stuff and then go on his adventure. And even when he is on his adventure, it's a lot of just, "Hey, look at this weird scenario, then how it connects to Greek mythology. That's cool, right? Hey, look at this one, how it connects to Greek mythology. That's also cool, right?" And there's a lot of that, but I can look past it because of how clever it was, and also because it's the first book. There's no need to be as much exposition in the later books. Maybe there is, because I haven't read them yet, I don't know, but I'd like to think so, and I think that just would make the most sense. And another minor issue I had with this is that most of it doesn't actually take place at Camp Half-Blood, which, that seems strange. I guess that's not even really an issue, it's just kind of a preference thing, and something that just struck me as kind of odd. Because Camp Half-Blood is such an interesting setting. This is where all of the demigod kids are together in one place, and where all the interesting stuff happens, what sets them up on their quest, but yet at the same time we see so very little of it. There's even a line in the book where Percy says, like, I don't have the book on me right now, so I can't quote it exactly, but it was something like, I had only just gone to know my new home, and I wish I could explore it more before I had to leave for a while, or whatever. That's horribly paraphrased right there, but basically that. And I felt the same way. I'm like, yeah, I do want to see more of Camp Half-Blood. Why can't we? And I don't really understand fully the reasoning for that, because like it's the first book. I feel like the first book is the one that should have the most at Camp Half-Blood, and then the rest could like open up into the greater world at large. It's just weird. I don't fully like that, but it worked still. It made sense because his actual quest was still very interesting. I did want to see more of Camp Half-Blood, and it's a setting I really like. And I know that with these young adult fantasy books being set in one of these places where the gifted kids go to learn about their powers and to go on adventures, I love that genre of story. It's incredibly popular. It's obviously a thing with Harry Potter that started it all, but it's usually set in a school. Obviously with Harry Potter, but with a bunch of other things too, like even X-Men, Vampire Academy, Ruby, that Rooster Teeth series, but what other things? Disney's Descendants, plenty more that aren't coming to mind right now. But you know what I'm talking about. They're always set in a school, so I think it's really cool that Percy Jackson is actually set in a summer camp instead of school. And for all intents and purposes, Camp Half-Blood functions pretty much the same as Hogwarts or Riordan Prep or Charles Xavier School or any of that. But because it is a summer camp and not a school, it conjures up different imagery. Like, instead of having long hallways and libraries and whatever else, and ballrooms, whatever, we have cabins and campfires and lakes and outdoor activities. It's just a different setting that's just really refreshing after seeing so many that are set in a school. And I love the ones that are set in a school, but I just think the summer camp setting it's great. It honestly kind of underutilized. I don't know why more young adult fiction hasn't chosen this instead of a school. Maybe the school's just easier, but it's great. I like the setting, but I wish I had seen more of it. And my last little issue, and this is one that I think probably won't be as cleared up in the later books, but I can live with that, is that this book did feel a little bit childish. And my friends had warned me about that. They have said that this one is kind of more for like kids and preteens. I know a lot of the other young adult books, they're appropriate for kids, but they still feel mature. Like Harry Potter and the Hunger Games, they don't treat you like you're a kid. And the Percy Jackson series, at least this first book, is a little more juvenile, and that's okay. It's okay to have a target audience be a kid. As an adult reader, I'm like, but I really should have read it in middle school anyway, but I can still enjoy it. I can still look past the kid stuff and say, like, yeah, if I was a kid, I'd probably enjoy this more, but for what it is, yeah, I still like it. Some of the stuff, I'm like, really? Like, I did cringe a little bit every time Annabeth called Percy Seaweed Brain, or a little bit at Smelly Gabe's character. It was kind of his rudeness and all that was over-exaggerated. And I know he was an abusive person, but, like, he was just too much of a stereotype. Just the way he talked and everything, like, people don't really talk like that. And another thing is, like, Percy always talking about, like, junk food and stuff the way a kid does, because he is a kid. He's, like, 12 in the book, I think. But still, I wish it was taken a little bit more maturely, but again, not a big deal. I'm not the target audience anymore. I kind of have to accept that, and that's fine. So really, yeah, that was all my issues, and as I was listening, you probably noticed I even snuck in some, like, praises amidst the issues. But really, that's most of what I have to say. Everything that's good about the series has already been said. It's adventurous, it's fun, the characters are likable, it's a very interesting world, it's captivating, has a unique setting, it's very clever in how it incorporates the Greek mythology stuff, and it's kind of educational for people who want to learn more about this Greek mythology stuff, because it's made into a modern setting, but like it's adapted from the original sources, and I think that's cool to have a young adult fantasy novel set with mythology instead of like more Tolkien-esque fantasy, because really all fantasy stems from mythology, even the Tolkien stuff. That's where it came from. It's adapted from that. So having it just go back to the roots with this mythology, it's cool. I liked it a lot. I really did enjoy this. I can't wait to read the rest of the series. Again, I got into this because of the musical and earlier on in the movie, so there were plot twists that I didn't enjoy as much because I already kind of knew they were there. I know it's different in the book than it was in the movie or the musical, but still I kind of knew certain things were going to happen. I knew which characters were going to betray each other. I knew relatively the order of what the monster encounters were going to be. I knew who Percy was and all this, but still, if I hadn't seen the movie or listened to the musical, these things would be surprising and great. And again, that's an issue with it being the first book. I don't know. Well, Sea of Monsters, I guess. But anyway, there's no musical for the second book, and there's no movie for the ones after that. So I have the opportunity to be surprised, and somehow I've gotten away without being spoiled of this stuff for so many years. So please don't post spoilers in the comments or anything, guys. Yeah. So to answer that question that my friends have always asked me, that I would hate the movies now that if I had read the books. Now that I have read the first book, do I hate the movie? Well, no, honestly. I mean, again, it's not a good representation of the book. It's not even a good movie, really. But for what it is, it's fun. It was made by, like, Nickelodeon, I think, and it was just a fun adventure story with some cool special effects and action scenes that kids and preteens would like, and that's kind of what the book is too, but the book does it a whole lot better. But still, the movie, for what it is, I enjoyed it. It was fun and whatever. It's been a long time since I've seen it. Maybe if I watch it again, I'll hate it. But, like, it's fine. I know it's sad that a book that was so good, that a lot of people loved, didn't get a worthy movie adaptation, but it's whatever. If you see them as separate things, the movie's fine. Just shrug it off, whatever. And now there's a better adaptation of the musical anyway. So do I like the musical or the book better? I don't really know. I have to actually see the musical instead of just listening to the soundtrack to know. But as of now, I honestly think I do kind of like the musical better just because I'm more of a theater guy than a book guy. But that's just me. They're both great. If you haven't listened to the musical and you like the books, you really should. And if you haven't read the books, you really should. So that's all I have to say for this video. I know I rambled a little bit, but as someone who's getting into the series for the first time, I kind of have to. Let me know what you think in the comments of how you were drawn to the series. I mean, I'm sure this is on BookTube. I mean, most of you have read these. I'm sure I'm the one who's left out who hasn't. But thanks again. Let me know what you thought of my video. Let me know what you think of the books. Let me know what you think of the musical also. Thanks for watching. This is Jeremy signing out. Bye.